All right, everybody. It's the third Wednesday of the month. That means it's time for Kubernetes Office Hours, our monthly live stream where we take your questions from the audience and try to get as many Kubernetes answers as we can in an hour via our panel of experts who are going to introduce themselves. Then we're going to show you how it works, and then we will get to helping. So, introductions. Let's go Pierre, BB, Tunda, Brandon, and then Dave.
Hi, I'm Pierre. I'm a software architect working with Kubernetes. Mostly my knowledge is in bringing applications onto Kubernetes as well as setting up Kubernetes clusters. Working for Spectrum, building chatbots.
Hey, my name is Bhargav, and I'm an independent consultant. My specialization is networking and networking in Kubernetes. I've been consulting with a couple of companies, and debugging is one of my core strengths.
I don't know if I was supposed to be next, but I will go. I'm Brandon. I am a longtime user, first time caller. I've been using Kubernetes since late 2015, sort of in prototype and stuff. I don't operate clusters, but I've moved a lot of applications into Kubernetes from like legacy stuff. So I can potentially help you with that.
Hi, everyone. My name is Tunde. I'm a senior customer reliability engineer at VMware. Spend day-to-day working on Kubernetes stuff and tools around the cloud native ecosystem. So I also enjoy debugging and troubleshooting applications. So happy to be here.
And Dave.
Yeah, so my name's Dave Strabel. I work at Microsoft as a cloud native architect, focused around Kubernetes and the open source ecosystem. I focus a lot around day two operations type stuff, CI/CD, Kubernetes on Azure. Thanks.
All right. And someone's asking the link to join DevOps Day. Mir, do you want to hop on the Zoom? Do you want to volunteer your time? We could do it on the spot. This is Brandon's first time. Dave, this is what, your second time? Tunda's second time?
Yep.
All right. Let me know. And if, Jeff, if you're listening, if you can paste. I got it. Yeah, we're about to take questions, Angels. Sorry, 1 second. Someone asked to join the panel. So DevOps Day Manager, just say if you want to hang out on the Zoom and answer questions as well, because this is open for everyone. All right, so let me get started while we're figuring stuff out. Welcome everybody to the Kubernetes Office Hours. The way this works is this is a Kubernetes event, so the code of conduct is in effect. So please be excellent to each other. We're going to go over the rules. Feel free to introduce yourself in the channel. Tell us where you work on, what you're working on, who you work for, what you're doing, how you're coping, working from home if you're working from home, and where you are. We like to have a lot of audience participation during this. Makes things a lot of fun. So you can feel free to just start asking your questions. Just type them in there. Do like question : or something to make it obvious for us. What we do is we paste these into a HackMD document and then read off of those so we can keep the show notes and stuff going. So, and if we miss a question, just go ahead and repeat it again, and then we'll go through it that way. So here are the ground rules. It's judgment-free zone. Everyone had to start from somewhere. So there are no dumb questions. There's no questions that are a waste of anybody's time. Whatever it is you need to do, we're going to try to answer it. And while we will do our best to answer your questions, the panel doesn't have access to your cluster, so we can't really like live debug, connect to your cluster or anything crazy like that. But what we can do is at a minimum, at least get you moving it down in the proper direction in the next step, whatever it is you need to do. Panelists, you're encouraged to expand on your answers with your experiences, your pro tips, your production experience, developer experience, anything that might help. Audience, you can also help us out as we're answering these questions, pasting in links to official docs, blogs, or anything that might be relevant to the topic at hand. It feels like every time we have a topic, someone from the audience always plops a URL of a tool that we've never heard of, and that's always like awesome. So it's always fun to share the knowledge. And then what I do is we collect all the URLs and we put them in the show notes, and then we publish those in the forum thread so that we have them. 1 second. Sorry, getting over bronchitis here. This panel is made up entirely of volunteers. So if you want to rotate into this panel, you just let me know. Or if you answer a bunch of questions in chat, I might just ask you to hop on like Pierre and start answering questions. So absolutely, it's a great way to get started contributing to the Kubernetes community and just kind of hang out and help people get I don't want to say help people get the knowledge that they need or something. Sorry, the chat is hopping right now. It's pretty awesome. We have people from Austin. Hello. Josh Burkus is here. He will be answering the database question that you will all always ask every single session, and we will link you to his blog post about running databases in Kubernetes. I think we might have pinned it in the channel by now. And lastly, we're DevOps people too, so we like to measure our metrics. So please help us by sharing this video, letting people know that you found this useful, anything like that gives us information on how useful this content is for you at work. It makes it easier for us to generate things that are useful for the community. So we really appreciate that. And thank you very much, panel, for joining us. We'd also like to thank the following companies for supporting in the community with developer volunteers on this panel: Giant Swarm, StockX, Pusher.com, Weaveworks, VMware, University of Michigan, Red Hat, Spectrum.io, American Airlines, Utility Warehouse, and Microsoft. And special thanks to the CNCF for sponsoring the t-shirt giveaway. So what we'll do is if we address your question on the air, we'll put you in a little contest, and I give away 2 t-shirts every session. I'll give you a code. I'll PM you after. I'll give you a code. You can go to the CNCF store and wear the wonderful Kubernetes shirt that we all forgot to wear today. I am not wearing. I'm wearing a different Kubernetes shirt today. But yeah, it's like the official Kubernetes shirt. It's a lot of fun. So audience, I hope you're ready to get started. Feel free to start queuing up your questions. Here we go. The first one is from Epitrocoid. I hope I got that right. All right. They say I have 4 clusters in AKS. Ingress to 3 works as expected using the Nginx ingress controller. In the 4th, ingress doesn't work at all. I only get timeouts using the public IP address. I can access the service using port forwarding, though, so I know the service is working properly. At this point, I'm really stuck on what to look at to figure out what's misconfigured or broken. The clusters were all spun up with Terraform, and the ingress controllers were installed via Helm. All right. Any ideas where we get started here? Because this is like a multiple clusters. Usually people are asking about individual clusters. Anybody?
Yeah, the way I would go debugging this is to check first if the packets are coming, the requests from outside world are coming into your cluster.
Okay.
That's first thing I would check. The second aspect is if the ingress is rightly connected to the service that he is talking about. So if it is connected, the best thing is to do a kubectl describe the ingress and see if it is connected, or check if their backends are healthy. These are the 3 aspects I would first debug and see things are okay.
You also may want to check if, I don't know if you're running any type of like network policy in the cluster. That's also something to check that can cause issues.
Any other advice here? I see the person who asked the question is typing. In the audience, feel free to also type your solutions in the chat. We like to get as much opinions from people as we possibly can. So it looks like they're typing. I do want to run a question by the panel from this morning that we were not able to answer. 1 second. Let me just grab it. What was the one? Is Samuel Drama here yet? I think I saw them joining. 1 second. All right. Simone asked us a question this morning that we were kind of stuck on. It says, I've been setting up Samba inside Kubernetes containers. Now I wanted to ask if anyone has tried or has tips on how to configure Samba as an Active Directory client running inside of Kubernetes. And most of the answers we realized this morning is we know people are doing Active Directory in containers. I'm just not quite sure with Samba on Linux workloads. So if any of you have any expertise with that, that would be a good one.
Yeah, we don't run that kind of infrastructure, which is like, unfortunately.
Yeah, we can't access your cluster, but absolutely, a screenshot is totally allowed. Or pasting debugging information maybe in a paste bin or a gist and linking back to that. That would be great. They do say their network policy is enabled, but I don't think any policies are set. I'll check. This is for the first question. And I see lots of people typing. Let's see what's happening.
Have you tried? So I'm not familiar with AKS at all, but I assume it works similarly to the other cloud platforms. If you're exposing a ingress controller, it's either going to use some kind of load balancer out in your cluster, or your node port exposing your stuff onto the public internet. Do you know how that happens? Are you actually like exposing your cluster nodes and using that as ingress, or is there an AKS load balancer of some kind sitting in front of all that?
Let's see, lots of people typing. Do we have any more questions from the audience? We can start queuing them up while we noodle on this one. So feel free to start typing them up. Yep, there is a AKS load balancer involved, so they're going to look at that too. Any other tips?
Nah, I would just say make sure that the Azure load balancer does actually get IP and that it's not pending when you look at the service. And then also make sure that that service actually has endpoints behind it. Yeah, that's where I would kind of start.
So, like GKE, is there a requirement to have a readiness probe or a liveliness probe enabled?
Yeah, well, not on the actual application, but the load balancer will have help check endpoints on it already.
Yeah, that's probably another thing to check.
I know it's silly, but like, if you can try deleting the ingress controller pod and seeing if it comes back, like I would do like normal whack-a-mole stuff to it for a few minutes before debugging. I think like you got to figure out if traffic is getting through the load balancer and into the ingress controller, and then that is broken, or like it's broken more upstream.
Okay, the part of the question I understand is like they have 4 controllers now that's running with Ingress and Helm, right? So the 3 are running and the 4th one is not running. Is that the question that we are taking up now?
Yeah.
Okay, so I think by default, the question may be all the others are also public IP, or all the other 3 are doing an internal IP. So if other 3 are doing an internal IP, they might be working fine. And if you're coming through the AKS load balancer and that is exposing to public IP, and you say that it's not working as expected, then it must be outside the Kubernetes, and that is the AKS load balancer which you are using is not being tied directly into the service properly, or something inside, but it's not out, it's outside the Kubernetes. It's not inside the Kubernetes, basically.
And
your ingress service is hitting. Maybe you log in into ingress pod. What I would do is log in into your ingress pod, exec into the pod, and try to hit the service that you're internal to the Kubernetes. And if you're getting it from the ingress controller pod and you're trying to hit it properly, that's fine. But the AKS is not routing. The public IP routing may not work properly to ingress. So check, there are 2 things: that routing from the AKS load balancer to the public IP, or from internal ingress to the Kubernetes service. So you're trying to hit the service directly. I know the service is working. Maybe the route from ingress is not working, or from the public load balancer to the ingress is not working. So there are 2 things which you can check.
Yeah, they also say I think it may be the case that it's related to things in Azure rather than things in the cluster itself. All right, so let's noodle on this one a little bit as you keep typing, and then we'll come check back up on you regularly. We have a question from Peter. Welcome, Peter. First time. It says, any recommendations for doing local microservice development in kind, but needing to access resources in a cloud-based cluster for like app authentication, authorization, etc.? I know it's a vague question. Any tips here for this? I would assume that, you know, even if you're not using Kind, if you're using Minikube or whatever on your laptop and you want to access cloud resources, that's going to.
Do you mean resources like actually running things that are like processes running in another cluster, or just like config secrets, that kind of stuff in a live cluster?
Yeah. And then Peter, we'll give you a minute there to go ahead and type it up, and we'll do that. Yep. And then Josh is asking, can you get to the cloud service from the machine you're running Kind on? I would assume so, right? So we'll go ahead and let them type. Next question is from Angel. Welcome, Angel. My question's around HPA. I found this article about horizontal pod autoscale, but I'm still missing something on it. Say I want to set up HPA, and there's some pre-setup that I need to do before the container starts serving requests properly, because the service is up servicing requests and working, but I need some extra data, like a large set of data, and the server will be using to properly serve the requests. The question is there a way to do some pre-setup before the container's activated to service requests? So it sounds like they want to like prime the pump for the horizontal autoscaler kind of thing. Any ideas on this one, panel?
Yeah, I don't know. I think I'm a little confused about. I mean, it's not like generally pre-set up stuff you can do via an init container and stuff, but I don't know how that interacts with autoscaling stuff, if at all. Like I feel like the init container stuff just kind of like goes and then is not really part of the calculation. What kind of data, like, so each process needs to like do a bunch of data bootstrapping before it boots, or this is just like something that needs to happen once and goes into a database and then it's fine?
Yeah. Hold on, I've got HPA. I have Bob. Maybe he can join us for one question. Keep talking.
All right. Init container will not copy some files into a node. So the init, so you're actually trying to copy a bunch of files onto, when a container boots up, you want to be able to copy a bunch of files into like the local file system on the node. Is that what you're after?
Yep. Bob's on his way.
Bob's typing.
I'm curious on the same thing. If this is a case of just wanting to ingest data into some volume inside of the main container prior to starting.
Yeah, I mean, if you can elaborate the question, because HPA is you're already doing HPA, and the thing is you want to run some data inside it before the parts come up, or what is that they want to do? Because services, the question mentions that the services are coming up, and then he wanted to load.
Yes. The way I understand the problem is this, right? I think they want to load some data before this container starts up, this pod starts up. Now, one of the ways trying to do is through using the init container, but it doesn't help. That's what he's suggesting. So, so how we should get it done? That's the question, I guess.
Can init containers not access the mounts that are available in your actually running container? Is that a thing? I've never tried that, but I have definitely seen file system bootstrap stuff happen before. So
yeah, his question is like init container will not copy some files into a node. Yeah, because there's a mount in the container. So he's saying that is there a way to do some pre-setup before the container is activated to service requests?
Okay. Any other ideas?
Yeah, what Tunde mentioned, that's right? If you want to load something into the container, write something external to the volume somewhere, some use some volume like GlassFS or any other thing which onto that will write to the volumes, and before your container comes up, just access the volumes and try to write the data or load the data into the containers.
Mm-hmm. It seems everyone's more like generally nodding in the right direction. Tunda, you're muted. Yeah.
Yeah, can we get an idea of what limitations, what they mean by not being able to pass in some data into the init container? So maybe that way we can understand what limitations they're facing and provide recommendations based on that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think he came back. He said that so take the example of Ingress. Say the app is deployed already, but the app depends on large set of data that is mounted in the container, but the data is in the physical node. I need to copy the data into the nodes. So he says he got some ideas now.
Yeah, that's good. And we've successfully tricked Bob to joining us to try to answer the question. So he's on his way. Quick feedback on Peter's question, which was any recommendations for doing local microservice dev in kind, but needing access to resource in a cloud-based cluster. So Burkus says, let's see. So Peter needs it for secrets and calls to other microservices. And then says, I know it's all theoretical. I know I'll need to set up ingress, public IPs, but is there a checklist? Josh says there really isn't. But Jorge, other Jorge, not me, recommends that for a setup like that, you might want to look at something like Scaffold from Google. And Josh says for auth, I could see VPNing to the cloud to use the same auth. Ingress would be tricky. And then Jorge goes on to say exposing your kind clusters in general, not recommended to the internet. Let's see. Yep, that conversation is still going. They're talking about basically they want that set up for end-to-end tests of ingress for quickly testing local changes. So yeah, keep I'll keep an eye on that conversation. Those of you just joining us, welcome. This is the Kubernetes Office Hours. Feel free to just type your questions in Slack, and our esteemed panel of experts will try to answer it. Bob is here for one question only. He might be busy for other stuff, but we were hoping if you had opinion around Angel's HPA question, and hopefully I give you enough time to read.
Let me read it quick.
Yeah, and then those of you who are way smarter, there's no way I can summarize everything that you all just said in the last 10 minutes. So if you could just tell Bob what do you think the idea is, that would be great. So let's give them a second. Any more questions from the audience while we're here? We've had a bunch of tough questions today. It is a hard month with everybody working from home. They brought all the hard questions.
Summarizing
today.
that, Bob, right? Bob, the
Yeah.
question is summarizing is that they have an HP. They're set up for the HPA horizontal pod auto scaling, but the thing is that before the pods come up, they have some local data to be written to the pods. So, is there any way to make it fast or something before the HPA scales up or something like that?
I don't understand the question.
So they basically want to preload a bunch of files into the container before HPA kicks in, right? Is that the general?
Yeah,
List?
50
Init
gigs of
container.
Yes. Yeah. Right. So I got a
Okay.
ton of research data, probably guessing needs to go into the container, but
Yeah.
they want to pre-stage it so that when the HPA comes on, they don't have to wait.
Just the best bet would be to create a shared volume that's accessible by all the pods. Unless
Yeah,
it's
so
like
I'm
even
gonna
if
guess
it's
it
in,
needs to be local for some reason,
yeah.
speed or something like that. Like, how do you get it onto all the nodes so that it's just there?
and
Yeah.
you could mount it to, like, if you're going to be having it on all the nodes, you could literally have like a daemon set that preloads it, unless it's like selecting bits and pieces. But you're not. Let's see.
I need to ensure that the nodes don't trip over the data. If one node is using it, the data is locked. But could we do persistent storage, but then just
So
force the nodes to serialize it?
if one node, if you could still have something. Let's see. I would still try and have the vast majority of the data accessible to all the nodes in some way, shape, or form. And if it has like some write lock or some, something like that, either, something comes up and either syncs it, via daemon set.
And they're saying
like
the answer is trying to have the node not available until it's set up with the data, right? Like just
It's just node available.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah.
You could literally have a daemon set's job that's like its sole thing is to sync the data from some source to to one of the local disks. And if you're breaking it up by sets of data, you could use like label the node with that specific like data set or something like that. The other thing is like regarding the node idea is that you could probably taint the node and still have a daemon set scheduled to it. So that way that prevents scheduling until the daemon set or something is done, and then its job would be to remove the taint once it is essentially reached a happy state.
What do we think about this? Is this how you would do it? Let's see. Audience, I see some people typing, so maybe we have other opinions here. We have another HPA question right after this, so that's.
The Bob has to wait for the next question too.
Yeah. No. Bob, you can go do what you want. I just figured you were good with this one. Video work to do. That's fine. I don't want to.
It's all good.
Let's see what everyone's. David and Waleed are typing. Looks like they have opinions. We'll see. Let's move on to the next HPA question here. So let's just talk HPA. Let's just keep talking HPA. I've deployed an application Kubernetes cluster with HPA enabled. If it's more than 60% expected to scale, it's working fine. But if there's any pending pod, the scale down is not working. How do you figure out like your ratios and things like that when it comes to HPA? Or any idea where even to start?
What do you mean pending pod? Like the pod is stuck in some way, or
yeah, like the 60% expected. Are you saying that you got 60% of the things that were supposed to show up showed up? So it only goes to 60. It doesn't go past the 60%, right?
Yeah, I think even the load is 0%. Even when the load is 0% also.
Oh, did you get more information? Hold on, let me see. Is there a thread? All right. So even if the load is 0%, okay.
So even if the load is 0%, do you have resource requests and limits on there? Because it should try and schedule it around the limits and everything.
Yeah. Because it sounds like even at 0%, then something is clearly wrong, right? Any ideas here on this one at all? Or anyone in the audience that could help DevOps? Demir, I guess? Is that how you say that? I don't know. And for Angel's question, it says, yeah, maybe they need to further understand why and how the framework they're using locks the data. So maybe it should just be read only. Let's see what people are saying. Any help on this one? Oof. We've had a few tough ones, Bob, today. It's been a rough slog. Everybody's working from home, tackling the tough problems today.
You're supposed to ask me easy questions for my first time.
I know.
Here.
It's not
Come
like,
on.
can you help me with what a pod is? It's like, can someone please ask about databases? All right.
So is this question still on HPA not scaling down when there's pending pods?
Yeah, like what's the state of the pods when you set it in 0%? Does it? I'm confused on what the state of the pods are.
Yeah.
I'll give this
So they said in thread that once my working is completed, that load is 0%, but scale down is not working. So it's not scaling down.
Oh, okay.
After it's reached.
Okay, so it's scaling up just fine.
One of the reasons.
So it's working.
Even
it's just
there,
expensive.
Right? There is a. Even scaling up, I would say, right, there is a pending pod, which probably is due to the resource limits. The scheduler is not able to schedule to one of the nodes. So there is a race condition that is happening. The scale up, it's trying to scale up, and there is a pending. One of the pod is pending because there's no resource probably, and that kind of screws the whole scale down process as well. Seems like a race condition that is happening here.
Alrighty. Any other questions before we move on?
On your HPA configuration, right? There's a horizontal pod autoscaler downscale stabilization time. So do you know what time did you set up on that, or is it already preset on that? Because when you're downsizing the parts or when you're scaling down, maybe that setting maybe for 5 minutes or so that is being set. So we just need to wait for at least 5 minutes or so to just scale it down.
Yeah. Okay, we'll let that one noodle on. Josh, if you're listening in, I think Waleed is just asking information from Angel. This is the one as far as this is the first HPA question. Who wants to copy the large set of data locally? We're just trying to understand why they can't use persistent storage instead of trying to copy a ton of data to each node. So that's where we are on that one. Okay. Simone, welcome back. Asks, I've learned about GMSA on Windows nodes here, and then a link. But any chance to have this running on Linux? This is a relatively new feature. Let's see, it's in beta 1.16. Anyone have comments on this one on GMSA?
I highly doubt it will work because that's a Windows specific thing.
Yeah. but we can definitely run those questions by the SIG Windows folks, because we are due to do another before the virusing kind of knocked everything off schedule. We were planning on having a SIG Windows specific office hours. So stay tuned for that. We might, having them around will be able to have that expertise, because we do not. Because as I learned last time, just because someone works at Microsoft doesn't mean they know anything about Windows. Right, Dave?
I know zero.
That's so awesome. All right. Our next question is from, hold on, we didn't put that in the, oh, it goes, SIG Windows is where I learned about GMSA. I would love to like sit down with them and actually like ask them and talk to them about that stuff. And Yorn asks, show of hands, anyone actually running Windows containers in production for real? Because I run into people who say they are, and when I ask really, they're all like, nah, not really. Okay.
I'm actually gonna peace out at this point, so I
Okay.
will
See you, Bob.
see
Thanks
you
for
all
dropping
later.
by. All right. We've got about 15 minutes or so left. So let's power through some of these questions here. Sorry, Simone. Hopefully I can get one of them to come onto the show and help answer these questions, but I will definitely pass that along to them. All right. David says, hey guys, strange question. Have you seen a Docker registry run inside a cluster that needs to pull images from it? For example, in a Kubernetes cluster running at the edge that has several nodes that all need an image, but the network is bandwidth constrained, and wouldn't it be optimal to pull images from all the nodes separately? This is a pretty interesting question. I've never thought of this. Where do you people typically run your registries?
Ours is very bad, and I wouldn't do what we're doing. So.
I was gonna say I just use my cloud provider one, and then you're like fine. Where else? Do we anyone using Harbor? Like where do people put Harbor?
I mean, yeah, people use all kinds of. I mean, for my use case, like said, generally we use JFrog Artifactory. That runs with. I mean, with the DevOps pipeline, it's indicated there. I mean, Artifactory is one of the place where you can store images and push it and pull it. That runs very good.
Where else? Because I'm assuming you would run your registry
outside the cluster, maybe.
Yeah, like in your region. So
yeah,
you have the network thing.
That's good point. Because your registry is always
Yeah, even to run a pod, you need a container. I mean, you need a registry to pull. It's a chicken and egg problem, right?
Yeah.
So you need to have the register running outside the cluster and within the network that need not get out of the your edge.
Right. Is a common question because Waleed says on the edge, and they use the OpenShift internal registry in the default namespace. Nexus on the edge is Bastion host. Interesting. Because I could see you running a separate cluster for your registry, right? If it's like a really large deployment and you got a bunch of harbors in a cluster. And any other best practices? Tunda, have you ever set up like Harbor for anybody? How do we do this?
Not from ground up, but but typically we do see folks have them separated from the cluster.
Yeah. Because I feel even if you're in a multi-cluster environment, you'd want that at the region level or whatever thing above a cluster you have, Interesting. And Waleed said, yeah, it's one of those things. If you have clusters, you kind of already have to have a registry somewhere. So I think at that point, it's the kind of optimizing where it should be. But that's interesting. Audience, where are you running your registry? If you are your own registry, I'd be interested to know what people are doing that one.
Especially if you're running in the clouds, it has only registry like ACR. If you're for Azure, it has only registry, and if it is for Google has its own registry. AWS has its own registry. So the registries generally lies outside the cluster, and if you're on the cloud, use the native registries which they provide. Or if you're on-prem, you should definitely have at least region-based registries so that you can pull it from there, or have a backup from.
Yeah. So hopefully that will that answers your question. Moving on, we have DevOps Demir again, or is it DY Mister? I don't know. Says I have an application like front end Angular and back end Python Flask API and a database Cassandra deployed in Kubernetes. Communication from back end to Cassandra using SVC is working fine, but not able to connect front end to back end using SVC. But I am able to connect using Ingress. And then people started asking questions for more information here. Josh asked, what's the setup for the backend service? It's a default deployment YAML file for the backend service. And they're using GitLab. And Josh says, yeah, we kind of need, if you could toss your YAML file on a Payspin or a GitHub gist, that would help. Welcome back, Brandon. In the meantime, are there questions? David says that's a good idea. Thank you. I've used Harbor outside the cluster, but it would be nice if there was a way to pull images on one node and then other nodes can get the image from that one node rather than pulling from the registry. Oh, I see. So they kind of want a more peer-to-peer as opposed to all the nodes grabbing from the registry. They kind of want the nodes to be able to peer-to-peer and image between themselves, which sounds a lot like, yeah, I was like, I'm pretty sure Harbor can do this, but I'm not sure. I am not the Harbor expert. But stand by here. There's a thing. There was another P thing for Kubernetes that's a cool name.
I mean, our deploy process definitely spends a lot of time just shipping images back and forth. So, I mean, I'd like, this is probably generally useful to a lot of people. I know that things like if you're in GKE and use the Google Container Registry and stuff, it's all pretty fast because it's replicated and stuff. But if you're doing it yourself,
that isn't. So there is a dedicated one. I'm just saying called the Kraken P2P powered Docker registry. I'm not sure if Harbor does this. I'm not. Jonas is my Harbor expert. Waleed says Harbor and Key can do replicas. That's good to know. There's Dragonfly. That's what I was thinking. This is the thing from Alibaba. Let me look here. I remember seeing this. Which is a CNCF project. But I'm wondering if it does images. Or the container images themselves, or if it's just for, your apps kind of thing. But that might be something worth to investigate. And whoa, huge YAML paste. All right. All right. From now on, let's just use GitHub gists. All right. In the meantime, while Josh checks out that YAML, everybody, OMG Pizza, welcome to the show, asks, let's see, where am I? Sorry. There it goes. I've got a problem on one of the clusters I manage where cron job pods occasionally get stuck in container creating status and never recover, so the job never completes. Has anyone seen this before or know what causes it? There's no information about events that occurred on the pod or anything. It just hangs in container creating indefinitely. All right, so how can we start debugging this?
I have to imagine you'd be able to get a log from something somewhere. So there's no container logs at all. There's no, the control plane isn't logging anything.
What about the kubelet on the node itself, right? Like the... well, he'd ask, container creating could be a large image. Check from the node that you can pull it. That's a good one. Any other ideas there? Hi, Bhavesh. Welcome to the show. Feel free to ask your question.
This could be a problem with kubelet or either the container networking. Yeah, you may want to check the kubelet logs.
Yeah, that was my guess, is the kubelet log on that specific node, right?
Yeah, it's occasional as well, right? It's probably, it happens, it does not happen all the time. So it's occasional.
Right.
So it's probably some large image is what one of the, it's been referred here. That could be the problem.
Says the only logging I've been able to track down is deep in the guts of Docker logs with something about a dead pipe, whatever that means. That's awesome. There's nothing in the kubelet logs, Pizza? Let's see what they say. See, let's just give them a time here. This is Emmanuel's question. You'll be next. Yeah, I would definitely. So they say, I'm not sure how well I've checked the kubelet logs. That's probably where I would start. I don't know. I'm not the expert on this one. Panel. Kubelet logs for container creating being stuck. Well, he says cry cuddle pull after authentication could give you some hints.
What does the event say? What does the event log say? The check the kubectl event logs. The event logs also should have at least if it is inside it.
Yeah.
Does this happening like 100% of the time? Oh, it's occasionally.
It says occasionally, which is.
Yeah. I mean, so you can create, I don't know if you can like if it's, I don't know if you know how to spawn up a job out of a cron job and instead of waiting for it to happen, but like it might be handy. I can find a command and paste it in there.
Yeah, just fire it off by hand a bunch of times.
Yeah, fire it off by hand a bunch of times and see if you
Yeah.
can like tell what's going on. Like as long as it's like idempotent, they're not gonna like trash everything. Like,
Yeah.
it might be.
It says he has a bunch of jobs
It could
that
be a
use the
certain
same
node
image.
or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think additionally, what could also be done is kind of like monitoring those jobs, just investigating them and seeing whatever occurs during the periods when it goes into their state.
Is there a chance that whatever the job is doing might be causing this, like the cron job itself? There's no chance it will be the workload, right? That can't be right.
Yeah, I mean, one more thing is that Docker, it kind of said that broken pipe, right, somewhere. So it could be something related to, it's intermittent, broken pipe. It could be something related to reaching out to the internet and getting the image. That could be an issue with the network per se. That's another thread I would also follow.
Yeah. Yeah, it says it may be related to the work the job is doing, since it happens more often with specific jobs. You don't think if it's a lot of jobs that they're just resource starved and something just times out, do you?
Why would it be stuck in container creating if it's the work that the job is doing, though?
Like, I'm wondering, like, if you just had a lot of jobs going and maybe you're over provisioning the cluster and not knowing it, and it's affecting the other ones.
Yeah, I would look at your local disk because that's where Docker's in the data path there. We see a lot of issues where that local disk that it's spinning those images up from, when they get pegged with a lot of I/O, they hit their limits in a lot of environments.
Yeah.
And you get very weird behavior. Things just start breaking that a lot of times doesn't give you a good hint just from the Kubernetes logs.
Yep.
But if you look into, I would look at that OS disk performance there. Especially, you see it a lot with like cron jobs where people are spinning up hundreds of jobs at once.
Yep.
That would be also something to at least check out.
Yeah, they say it's a good point. The jobs that happens the most are the ones that run the most often. So it might just be a statistical thing. Right. Yeah, I'm just wondering if it's like you could just be oversubscribing a disk and Kubernetes is actually helping you out. You know, you just get an error rate but that would be interesting to know. But hopefully, pizza, that'll give you some places to look at where you might find some bottlenecks or something like that. Yeah, awesome. Feel free to keep on typing if you have any follow-up questions and stuff. We will try to get to them as fast as we can. Next question. All right, we have time for 2 questions. This will be the second to last question, and then one more question, and then we will give away the t-shirts. So let's see. Emmanuel asks us, hi, how would you proceed if a customer asked you to deploy a Kubernetes cluster in a completely isolated environment? No internet connection is possible. So a totally air-gapped installation.
Yeah.
I'm glad I don't have to do these.
I saw some documents about this,
I was
but
like,
I've posted a couple of links also. I think someone also posted a link. It's just that
Yep.
they have. It's just that there are a couple of vendors out there who does offline installations of Kubernetes,
sure.
and it's just that you just need to pull up the repositories and the images that are needed for it, and then keep it on-prem, and then try to run a couple of commands, bunch of commands. That's it. So I think we have provided the links, one from the Gravitation and one from the Genesis. So just try to check those. It has clear installations of how to install it offline.
Yep. Anybody else have tips? Waleed says yes, Rancher and Red Hat both do this. It's good to know. Anybody else? Tunda, have you ever done an install for a customer like this?
Yes, we have. Additionally to what was said by, I think it was Sam, you also probably need to pull down your images into your own specific registry as nothing
Mhm.
out of that environment. So that's one of the other things to configure. But there are documentations that do exist on how to do this.
Okay. Anybody else? Looks like Peter wanted to type something but didn't. It's fine. Any other recommendations for everybody? All right. Awesome. Thanks. We had some tough questions today, but I really appreciate hanging through. Almost 200 of you have participated on the YouTube live stream.
Yeah, we just
So-
missed one question, which kind of a waving
We
question.
did.
Thing.
Oh.
Yes, it's in John. I
Where
think
is it?
John asked, is anybody actually running Windows containers in production for real?
Oh, I thought they were just messing with me.
Oh, yeah.
He was.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
So just to mention that was a question just we missed it, but it was just posted because we asked simple questions.
All right. And there is one more, but we are out of time, so we will just go back to chat on this. Authentication in a cluster giving access to LDAP or my AD users. There's a thread there, so everyone help me out. But either way, DevOps Day, Mir, I keep mispronouncing your name. You won one of the Kubernetes t-shirts for the day, so thanks for dropping by. Hope we were able to at least like get you started in a certain direction. I will PM you afterwards with a code, and you can do that. And the other winner is Angel Vera. Angel, if you're still listening, you've won a Kubernetes shirt. And yeah, Jorn is, I kind of want to know about Windows containers. It's a Scooby-Doo mystery for sure. But absolutely keep an eye out for that. We've had people, this is why it's important you let us know how you liking this. We have had people ask for a Windows specific Q&A. And then we definitely do want to do a SIG one with all of SIG network as well, because there's a lot of questions around everything that's happening around network. So my goal is this quarter is to try to keep these going every month, but have an additional highly specialized office hours so that we can say, hey, everybody, this is going to be the network one or the storage one or something like that. So if you're interested in stuff like that, we're always interested in your information. So panel, any last comments or anything? Really glad everyone came out so far. The West Coast traffic has been good, so we think it's a good time slot compared to the previous one. So with that, any last comments, anybody? How y'all getting on with the remote working?
I've been doing it for years, so
Yeah, I know.
I'm already a shut-in. Doesn't matter.
For me, there's a lot of noise at home.
Yeah. So, you work for an airline? Oh boy. Oof. Yeah. All right. Anybody else? Sweet. All right. Thanks, chat, for everything. What I'll go ahead and do is we grab all these URLs and I will whack them on the forums. I'll do this after I eat lunch. And with that, we will see everybody next month. It's always the third Wednesday of every month, and I always announce in the Kubernetes forums, on the Kubernetes users channel, and in here. Feel free to stick around in the Office Hours channel and help each other out. We like to have that. And with that, panelists, thank you very much for joining us. And everybody have a great week.
You too, George. Everybody have a great week.
Cheers, everyone.
See ya.
Sanitized.